Hi Ankit, good evening.
Good evening, Narsi.
Good to talk to you. Thank you very much for being on the show. This is the Climafix Summit Insight series, and in this we talk to experts, investors, startups who are playing a key role in the Indian climate innovation ecosystem. So once again, Ankit, good to have you. Ankit Kedia is the founder of Capital A prominent venture capital firm investing in early and seed stage startups in many verticals, with climate being a very important vertical for them. And before this, Ankit was in the promoter group of a very prominent company, Manjushri Technopack, which was India's largest rigid plastics products company. More about that, perhaps you can see as we go along. So he brings a lot of expertise as an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, and I understand he also wears another hat today as an entrepreneur. They have Manjushri Tech, which is into sustainable packaging. So I can see Ankit spreading a lot of wings into the sustainability climate tech ecosystem, both as an investor as well as an entrepreneur himself. Welcome once again, Ankit. Great to have you on this.
Thank you so much, Narsi. It's always good to be part of such initiatives, and thank you for that introduction. Sometimes, you yourself don't know you're up to so many things, and it's just good to sort of hear that. But yes, it's good to be busy and always good to support initiatives like Climafix.
Wonderful. Welcome. Uh, the the discussion today, Ankit, is going to be predominantly around a theme which is fairly unique to you because one, you have been an entrepreneur promoter yourself of a fairly very successful firm, and secondly, also because climate tech is only one of the verticals you invest in. You invest in many other exciting verticals. So the theme is, how do you really look at investing in climate tech differently from the way you invest in other verticals? But before that, firstly, we would like to understand what are all the verticals you guys are investing in as Capital A?
Uh, Narsi, Capital A is an early stage fund based out of Bangalore. We are a 250 crore fund, and we write checks in as early as an idea stage up to a pre-series A. And when we started out and we started building our investment thesis, we said that we one sector which is the blue-eyed boy of all the investors, which is fintech. And the investors were extremely gung-ho, and there are so many founders also starting up in the fintech space, whether it's on the lending or the wealth tech or on cross-border payments or insurance or in the financial infrastructure. So there were many sectors that subsectors in fintech that we thought were very attractive. So fintech was already established, and we said that, you know what, we are a new fund. Uh, let's pick up one sector which is relatively safe, so as to say. And then we said that, how do we call ourselves early stage investors if we do not take strides into early stage investments of a fairly emerging sector, which is the climate. And although when we started investing in climate 3 years ago, uh, at that time, it was still very early and people had a lot of apprehensions of investing in climate. And now it's the new blue-eyed boy in town, where everyone seems to be talking about climate. And I'm sure we will see the magnanimity of climate at Climafix Summit in Chennai. But one of the things that we said that in climate, we have to have a slightly different approach. It's just not about deploying money and waiting for it to do something and then, return your capital or make money on it. One has to use a very different lens to invest in climate, which is to, along with capital deployment have uh, some energy to invest on how to help founders get to their KPIs, the first 18 months KPI. The reason for that is, there aren't any fixed metrics like revenue or, uh, milestones like PMF. It's a lot about experimenting, taking feedback, going back to the drawing board, developing it again, and then finally deploying it. There aren't any first phase revenue or first phase profitability to be achieved. And that's the hard truth of investing in climate. Uh, it could be a combination of deep tech, it could be hardware, it could be, a tech stack or a simulation platform that may take its own time by using data sets, and things like these take time. So one thing that we have learned from our last 3 years of investing in climate is to have the right amount of patience, have the right amount of resources to back some of these founders who we invest in, and obviously keep creating platforms to help them get clarity on what they are building, and keep connecting them with folks in the system who who build this uh, climate investment landscape very well. So 40% of our capital goes to fintech, 40% to climate, balance 20% we do everything else.
You already touched upon while you were talking about the investments in fintech and climate. Some of the characteristics or some of the approaches you have when it comes to investing in climate tech. So, are these common? Looking at how to help founders connect with others, looking at a few things within the investment or the company characteristics, far more at close quarters because climate tech could be fairly capital intensive or longer term. Are these philosophies common for all the investments you make? As you said, fintech is a very different domain. So what is it that is common to everything in the investments you do, and where do you think climate tech differs dramatically, if at all there is such a difference?
I think, well, the common philosophy, the points that are prerequisites to every investment across all sectors is the problem statement has to be very strong, and the founding team has to be extremely dedicated, and they have to have good experience to solve for that problem statement. Uh, the one thing that is common, I mean, these are the common things which sort of gets evaluated across all investments that we do. However, in the case of climate, one thing we lay a lot of, and actually the other thing which is common between fintech and climate, because the complex nature of building in a sector like this, you will notice that most of the founders who are successful in building out in these sectors have had some experience in the past, whether it's second time founders or they've had a successful professional stint or at a corporate job. Some of these folks end up understanding or able to navigate the challenges of building out early stage startups a lot more efficiently than someone who says relatively younger, fresh out of college, and trying to navigate the regulatory framework, and trying to build this out. Sometimes it's just not about figuring out how the industry works. It's also a lot about other things like resilience, when a team member leaves or when a critical talent goes away, or when someone is extremely overwhelmed with too many things on their plate. I think it also plays out a lot when they have the experience.
So
However,
one question, Ankit, here
yeah,
that pops up: does it mean that when it comes to climate tech versus other tech, you look for more gray hair in climate tech? Would that be one rather crudely put, but an important criterion?
for us at Capital A, that is of paramount importance, because when we are saying as investors, we are ready to uh, deploy our capital patiently and wait for our returns, I think the investees or the founders also sort of understand that this capital needs to be put to good use. And usually folks with a couple of decades of experience, or at least 10 years of experience, know how to respect that capital and put it to efficient use.
So you are saying gray hair, in some sense, is at least a bit more, if not a lot more important when it comes to climate tech investments. What else is a distinguishing factor that stands out really when it comes to climate tech versus, let's say, fintech, which is the other large investment domain for you?
The other thing about climate is that it's not a most investor friendly sector for now, right? Uh, if you see 2000, early 2000, 2010, and the 2020 decade, the amount of capital that's being poured into the climate has been fairly, uh, flatline. There hasn't been a lot of a lot of capital that has been infused in the last 2 decades. When people are doing that right now, they are doing so cautiously. I mean, our quick commerce friends at Zepto today raised 200 million at unicorn valuation. And I would be thrilled if one day a climate startup even does uh, half of that. And unicorn, no unicorn, I mean, it's just a tag, but to be able to raise that money and to put to good use is some time away. So it's not one of the most, I would say, investor friendly sectors globally. Funds like us, early stage funds like us, or a bunch of climate focused funds like Ankit Capital or Speciale, Avana folks are doing some very interesting work. And then you have a bunch of global funds like Circulate Capital and all of them. When they are uh, going out there and speaking or shouting from the rooftops that we are a climate fund, uh, that gives some bit of assurance that there are investors who are ready to invest. But are there investors who will at the drop of a hat invest millions of dollars? I think it will definitely happen, but only time will tell when it
So
picks up.
does that mean, Ankit, if I try to get a theme out of what you said, one difference could be that you are going to be a lot more cautious when you put in money into a climate tech firm, in the sense you would like some more validation, maybe a few more co-investors than what you would want to have when you invest in fintech. Would that be the other difference?
Yes, it's a bit of a catch-22 when I say, we are an early stage investor and go and tell the startup founder that, hey, I want to see traction. He'll think I'm on some kind of drugs or something because I'm contradicting my own statement. And you are so spot on, Narsi, when you say that co-investing is the strategy, and that's where I think most folks are. Most of our initiatives, most of our roundtable discussions, most of our networking events that we do are largely to build this community of believers in the climate space, saying that, look, hey, we are doing this. I think it's an interesting idea. If it helps to build your thesis, well and good. And if it is already a part of your thesis, we are more than happy to exchange notes with you and see if it helps. We've done that very successfully with Anicut. We've done that with Blue Ashwa Capital. We have 3 or 4 companies in common with Blue Ashwa, and I think uh, it's one industry. Unlike, I have this manufacturing DNA in me, and it gets very competitive in an industry like that. But when it comes to an investment industry, we can't afford to have competition in the real sense. Obviously, you will compete to get your MOIC and your IRR and your returns to your LPs and everything. But I think there is also a huge white space for collaboration. And if all specifically or especially climate investors, if they are able to understand that, I think sky is the limit.
Interesting. So, what I take back from the common threads and the differences between investing in other domains and climate tech, from what you said is one, the common thread is, look, I mean, there has to be a very clear problem statement. There has to be a clear passion and expertise amongst the team members to solve the problem. These are common, whatever is the domain you invest in. But when it comes to climate tech, two distinguishing factors could be, one is, well, experience could matter a lot more in this. A few more years of experience could be an added advantage and not a handicap as it could be in some other industries. Especially more the age could be actually an advantage. The second is more of collaborative investing, which both gives you the validation as well as a bit of a security net. Very interesting. Last question to you. So you have been investing for some time in climate tech. I know that you have, as you mentioned, quite a few interesting startups under your belt in your portfolio. What have been the highlights? What are things that stay in your mind in the last couple of years of your investing in this field?
We started out, we said that the most uh, exploding growth that we were seeing in was the EV and mobility space. And then we said that what else apart from EV and mobility, the other sectors that were really, really gaining a lot of traction was battery swapping, right? And there is this very interesting company called eChargeUp, which is based out of Delhi NCR. They were the first few folks to start battery swapping for e-rickshaws in Delhi area. And what they have done very interestingly, because swapping as a business on its own uh, cannot be a business alone. So they have added other revenue streams like having a very strong tech play and developing the entire end-to-end life cycle from financing the vehicles for the drivers up to swapping for them or even giving them batteries on lease. uh, it's I think this what we saw when Varun Goenka, who's the co-founder at the company, what we saw was when he started off as a swapping, and then his germination into learning that swapping is not the only revenue stream. There are multiple other opportunities. And when he jumped at it, uh, I think that was very gratifying for us to see the last 2 years, 2.5 years of journey of ChargeUp. Uh, in addition to that, we invested in a company called Urja, uh, which is not the sponsor Urja of Climafix. It's another company called Urja.energy, founded by Vineet Dravid, Prashant, and Prajakta. Uh, this is a company which is into deep tech analytics of simplifying complex engineering, right? They develop simulation even before a hardware is made. Right now, they are using EV as a use case, but the use cases can extend to other industries also, like semiconductors or aviation or many other forms. So we just ended up investing in them along with another large fund called Axelor and Ankit again. So these are folks who are building in some very interesting spaces. Now, these on the EV and mobility side. Apart from this, then another company, Tan90, three founders from IIT Chennai. And I see the smile on your face because they are from Namma Chennai.
Chennai, and well, we keep bumping across them many times. I had them on a panel yesterday. Go ahead.
Or they are an outstanding bunch of founders. And what I like to call them is a bunch of geeks who are equally good at entrepreneurships. Because sometimes marrying both those qualities, it's a very rare hybrid that you find. I mean, these guys are killing it every month. And I think what they are on to is something very interesting. I, 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 I think the entire expansion strategy and possibly helping the industry with their solutions in different parts of the country will only amplify the entire climate mission of our ecosystem. So, I mean, if you see, we have something in sustainable packaging like bamboo and infinity box. Then we have charge up, urja, matchlog, which is again into triangulation of logistics or trucks to reduce carbon footprints. So companies like these are building in different facets of climate. For us, we when a climate opportunity comes to us, I think a lot of second guessing also happens, because what we may view as a large problem uh, may not be a large problem for consumers or other enterprises. So that is where we spend a lot of time doing primary research. And so far in these 3 years, it's been extremely gratifying. We want to double down on our efforts, onboard some experts, and make sure that we are able to develop a meaningful thesis around climate.
Very interesting. I think I'm glad that you spent some time on the last question instead of just giving a couple of bullet points. I think that kind of traces your journey, even though it has been a short journey for you in climate tech investing. What has it been, about 2 years since you started it? How long has it been? A couple of years now? Yeah, but I think you traced it beautifully, and different examples, be it TAN 90 on one side or Vinny's Voja on the other. There are some common things I can see. Both these guys have a fairly deep tech play in the game. But as you said, otherwise, I met both Vineet and Prashant. They were here for they were here for a presentation sometime back, which we organized. And yeah, we work closely with the TAN 90 as well. All of these guys are going to be a climate fix, by the way. So it looks like you can have many of your investing needs right there at Climafix. You don't have to go to them separately. Wonderful, great talking to you. Thank you very much for spending time. I think when I go through all the things that you have said, digest it, it's going to be very interesting for me and for the audience. Thank you very much, Ankit. All the very best to Capital A.
Thank you, Narsi. Thank you for hosting me, and we are very excited to be a part of the summit.
Thank you. All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.